How's it going, folks? I'm Des with DesFit, and this is the brand new Apple Watch Series 8. And in today's video, we're going to go over all the new features of the successor to the Series 7. And just like all my reviews, I'll be focusing a lot on the sports and fitness side of things because although this is a great smartwatch, I know a lot of you out there also use it for fitness. Oh, and Apple also released their second generation Apple Watch SE, and I've got another super in-depth review of that device, which I'll have linked up here as well as the description below. But I guess with that, let's talk about the Series 8. So the new Series 8 builds upon the Series 7 with some new features, but the Series 8 still has everything from the Series 7, including the larger case sizes than the SE, where they have a 41mm version and then a 45mm version. And this is the 45mm version that I have for you here today on my 187mm circumference wrist. The Series 8, just like the Series 7, has an always-on display that you can turn off, by the way, if you'd like to save on battery life. Bands from previous generation Apple Watches do also work with the Series 8. They come in a GPS version or a GPS plus cellular version, and the cellular version has that distinct red ring on the digital crown. The Series 8 also has ECG as well as blood oxygen saturation measurements, and it has 32GB of storage for offline music storage and playback. So what's new then? Well, there's a new wrist temperature sensor, actually two temperature sensors. There's one on the back side of the watch against your wrist, and then there's going to be another up top closer to the display. And they say that having those two sensors together and fusing that data together reduces bias from the outside environment. And then during the night, it'll check your skin temperature every 5 seconds, and they say that it can detect super minute changes all the way down to 0.1 degrees Celsius. And then you'll be able to see all this data in the Health app. And then after 5 nights of sleep, you'll be able to see your wrist temperature trends, which can help you assess how different factors may be affecting your sleep. But that new temperature sensor can also be used for menstrual tracking, where it can give you retrospective information on ovulation cycles, something that I obviously can't test, but I definitely hope to see other reviewers cover this topic with some longer term use. And then speaking of sleep, the Series 8 also comes with more advanced sleep tracking that comes with Apple's latest watchOS 9, where you'll be able to see a breakdown of your sleep stages. And one thing I really do like about this is that you can see the data directly on the watch itself, in addition to the data on the Health app. Now, along with some of the safety features that we've seen before, like fall detection, the Series 8 also comes with severe car crash detection. So they've added a high G accelerometer, and they use that in conjunction with the gyroscope, the barometer, the microphone, as well as GPS to detect a severe car crash and then automatically try to contact emergency services. Now, this is obviously something I hope to never ever see in a video, but I do think it's pretty innovative for Apple to come up with a feature like this that leverages a lot of the sensors that we already use for health and activity tracking, combining that with these smartwatch features, and then leveraging the connectivity of your phone. And by the way, this feature will work independently of your phone with LTE enabled Series 8. The new Series 8 also comes with a new low power mode, and this is a watchOS 9 feature, so other Apple Watches that can support watchOS 9 can actually benefit from this feature. But what this feature will do is turn off the always on display. It disables automatic workout detection, disables background heart rate measurements along with irregular heart rate notifications, blood oxygen measurements, and also just connect to your phone for notifications once per hour versus consistently. And with this low power mode, they say that you can get up to 36 hours of use. And what's nice about this low power mode is that during workouts, it'll actually still be recording full GPS and heart rate measurements. So your workout data will just be as accurate in this mode. So like on this ride here, this was using the low power mode, and before the ride I had 89%, and then after the ride, which is about an hour and a half, it used 11% of the battery. And by just doing the simple math, that actually comes out to be over Apple's estimate of 7 hours of use with GPS. What I did find sort of interesting about workouts using the low power mode though is that they don't display the hundreds of seconds, and they simplify it to just display seconds. So here I'll just start a workout in normal power mode and it displays the hundreds of seconds. But now let's stop that workout, go to the power settings and enable the low power mode, go back to start any workout, and now it simplifies the display. So there are some other subtle things that are happening with low power mode other than just turning off the always on display and blood oxygen measurements. Oh, and really quick, if you're finding the information in this video to be useful, do me a favor, just quickly hit that like button down below. It's a small little thing that you can do that'll help this video and the channel quite a bit, and I appreciate it. But what's cool though is that they are coming out with a low power mode that's specifically designed for workouts, where we'll reduce the GPS and heart rate sampling to extend the battery life beyond that 7 hours. Unfortunately, that feature isn't quite here yet, but make sure to subscribe to get a notification for a follow-up video on that feature. But does that low power mode really work? Can you really get 36 hours? Well, I had this Series 8 at a full charge right around 24 hours ago, and it looks like I'll easily get more than 36 hours, probably closer to 2 days. And I even went on an hour-and-a-half bike ride yesterday, a 30-minute run, as well as about 30 minutes in the gym. I've always found Apple's battery life estimates to be pretty conservative, where even in the normal power mode, I can usually get a day, if not a little bit more, which is beyond their 18-hour claim. And it looks like the 36-hour claim in low power mode, that looks to be the same, where I think you could easily get 36 hours and possibly more, depending on your usage. And speaking of battery life, something that you could do on previous generation Apple Watches is that for outdoor workouts, you could actually bring your phone with you and the watch would leverage your phone's GPS connection, which would save a little bit of battery life on the watch. But that's actually no longer the case with the new generation of Apple Watches. So the Series 8, the new SE, as well as the new Apple Watch Ultra, they actually will not be leveraging your phone's GPS for outdoor workouts if you have your phone with you. They'll only be utilizing the GPS on the watch itself. Now, I'm a little bit mixed on this because you could save a little bit of battery life by having your phone with you for those outdoor workouts, but it wasn't like days more or anything like that. It was just more like a couple hours. But from a GPS standpoint, I do find that GPS is more accurate on a watch itself versus my phone. So overall, I'm happy with the decision. It is a slight bummer that we didn't see a bump in battery life in the normal power mode, but it is nice to have that low power mode for those of us who may not use some of those other features. And then on the sports and fitness side of things, the Series 8 didn't get new hardware that would make any difference in this department, but it was really about the new software with watchOS 9. And the great thing is that previous generation Apple Watches that can support watchOS 9 can get some of these features as well. But just like before, you've got a ton of workout profiles to choose from, and it's kind of staggering how many workout profiles they have in here actually. But one of the big improvements that comes with watchOS 9 are these new customizable workout views where you have dedicated views for different information you want to see, like heart rate, splits, segments, and then specific workout type views like running power for running, as well as 2 customizable workout views where you can edit the data fields within the page. Just really nice to have more data to see on the fly during workouts. And I have another video where I went over all the new workout views and how those work, and I'll have that video linked down in the description below. And I also talked about running power in that video, which is the next topic. So with running power, again, this is something that's available on some previous generation Apple Watches that support watchOS 9, and running power is basically trying to give you an additional data point for training. The reason for running power is that although pace can be a good indicator for training, pace can also be skewed with things like changes in grade, wind, as well as the surfaces that you're running on. So the goal with running power is to create a little bit more unbiased metric based on the force or propulsion. And for how it measures up, I found that running power collected on an Apple Watch to basically match the trends that you'll see with other devices that can collect this data. The reason that the numbers may be different from device to device on this chart, though, is that there's really no industry standard for running power where each company kind of comes up with its own number. It's really more about the trends that are important here, where all these devices should show when there's more power, all of them should be increasing, and vice versa. Apple Watches tend to line up pretty close to the wrist-based power number that you'll get on a Chorus device, as well as a Stride FootPod, and then the number that's collected by Garmin devices tends to be a lot higher. Again, though, the number doesn't necessarily make a difference. It's the trends that we want to see line up. But now let's get into how well the Series 8 does in tracking outdoor activities in regards to GPS accuracy. So like I was mentioning earlier, the Series 8 it doesn't try to piggyback off your phone's GPS, so all of the following examples will be using the built-in GPS on the Series 8. So like on this run here, the Series 8 was quite close to the other devices for the total distance, and that's usually about what I see with different devices. And then for the finer detail of the actual GPS tracks, it was quite good over the course of this run, but let's zoom in and do some pixel peeping to see how accurate it really is. So the other devices I was using on this run have the same sort of higher accuracy satellite system setting that comes on the Apple Watch Ultra. So that's the dual band satellite system mode where it's able to leverage more than one satellite frequency at one time. And I found those devices to be very accurate. But the Series 8 was pretty much right in line with those other devices. On a few occasions, you'll see that it was a few feet away from the other devices, but it's super minor for the most part. There were really only 2 corners where I saw it sweep just a little bit wide, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with what I see here. And then for a bit longer example, here's a road ride, and again, the Series 8 nailed it against some devices that have that even more powerful GPS. Like on every split, it was crazy that I heard that little audio alert for the split right in line with the other devices. And then in terms of the detail of the GPS tracks on that ride, well, it was basically like a big fat magic marker over the course of the ride. I scoured over this thing trying to find something, and I really wanted to focus on these curves and corners because what happens at higher speeds is that some devices may take them a little bit wide because they can't keep up, but the Series 8 did solid here. On this entire ride, there was just one spot where I saw it deviate just slightly, but it was pretty minor. And then before we get into hardware accuracy, the Series 8 also comes with that brand new Compass app that comes out with watchOS 9, which is also supported on some previous generation Apple Watches. But with the Compass app, you can see your orientation, of course, but then you can also drop waypoints or basically little pins marking your location. And you can customize the label and color of these pins so you can kind of sort them a bit easier, and then it collects them all up here in the upper left-hand corner. And then along with that, they also have the backtrack feature, which you can start by just pressing this button in the lower right-hand corner of the Compass app, where you can start tracking your steps, which you can use to get back to wherever you came from. And then in addition, this backtrack feature will also just automatically engage when you go off the grid and you don't have a cellular or Wi-Fi connection. Now, it is really neat to have this backtrack feature, but I would have just loved to see it integrated with maps. Apple has tons of maps data, and it just seems like it would have made sense to combine those together, so I really hope to see that in the future. And then when it comes to heart rate accuracy, I've always been super impressed with the heart rate accuracy on Apple Watches, going all the way back to the Series 3. So let's see if the Series 8 continues that trend. So here's an indoor bike ride, and I usually use this sort of an activity as a baseline where nearly all wrist-based optical heart rate sensors can get this right. And as you can see, the Series 8 nailed it compared to both an external chest heart rate strap as well as an arm-based optical heart rate sensor. Even on these intervals right here, it was very good. If we really wanted to try to find something that was off, you could say that it had about a 2-second delay on these two hard sprints right here, but that's completely normal for a wrist-based optical heart rate sensor since it's further away from your heart. And then on this run, again, super solid. If we did want to pixel peep, there's one spot right here where it read a few beats per minute high, and then the same thing right here. But what I also wanted to point out is that there was even some variance from the arm-based optical heart rate sensor I was using, and arm-based optical heart rate sensors tend to be actually more accurate than the wrist. And while we're looking at this run, one thing I noticed with previous generation Apple Watches is that at the beginning of each workout, it could take the Apple Watch a minute or two to lock onto heart rate, but I'm actually not seeing that anymore. It seems to be getting a lock on heart rate rather quickly now, and we'll see that in the following examples as well. And then taking this outside on a road ride, this is where we start to introduce a few more variables like gripping onto the handlebars as well as vibrations and bumps in the road, which can throw off these types of sensors. But I don't really know what to say here. This looked pretty much identical to the chest as well as the arm optical heart rate sensor. Well, the Series 8 did a very decent job here, and on some sets even better than an arm-based optical heart rate sensor that I was wearing. What was also pretty impressive here were the high intensity intervals at the end where, other than the first interval where it was a little bit late, it nailed the others. And this wasn't just by luck or anything either. Here's another session and we see very much the same consistency where there may be just a set here or there where it had a hiccup, but overall, these are very solid results I saw at the Series 8. So the Series 8 is basically a good follow-up to the Series 7. Being that they just changed its design from the Series 6 to the Series 7, I wasn't necessarily expecting any drastic changes in that department. They just left all those changes for the Ultra this year. The Series 8 can probably be thought of as an S upgrade, with the biggest changes being the new temperature sensor as well as the high-G accelerometer. So if you're a Series 7 owner, those would really only be the two biggest reasons to upgrade. But if you're a Series 6, 5, 4, and definitely 3 owner, this is a solid option. Anyhow, if you have any questions about the Series 8 that I didn't cover in this video, make sure to leave those in the comment section down below. And on your way down there, if you found the information in this video useful, do me a favor and just quickly hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel for plenty more reviews that are coming soon, including the new Apple Watch Ultra. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.